Most guys think they lost her because of one big argument, one bad night, one wrong thing they said. But that is almost never how it happens. The truth is quieter than that, and far more painful. She did not leave in a moment. She left in a pattern, a slow, invisible pattern that most guys never even noticed was happening. And the worst part? Some of you watching this right now, it is already happening. You just do not know it yet. This video is about the real reasons guys lose girls. Not the dramatic ones. The silent ones. Stay with me, because some of these are going to hit close to home. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 7 things that quietly push a girl away, while the guy is standing right there thinking everything is completely fine. These are not opinions. These are patterns. Patterns that repeat across thousands of relationships. If you are in something right now, this could save it. If you have already lost someone, this might finally explain why. And if you are not in anything yet, this is the video that puts you ahead of most guys before you even start. Let us get into it. 1. He stopped being someone she could look up to. When a girl first gets interested in a guy, there is usually something about him that feels different. Something that feels solid. Maybe he had a clear direction. Maybe he moved with confidence. Maybe he just seemed like a man who knew where he was going. But somewhere along the way, that version of him quietly disappeared. He got comfortable. He stopped growing. He stopped challenging himself. And without saying a single word, he sent her a message that he had already arrived, that there was nowhere else he was trying to go. Here is what most guys do not understand. A girl does not just want to be with a guy she likes. She wants to be with a guy she genuinely admires, not because she needs a perfect man, but because admiration is what keeps attraction alive over time. The moment she starts feeling like she is more driven than him, more focused than him, more serious about life than him, something inside her begins to shift. She will not announce it. She will not sit you down and explain it. But you will start to feel the distance. And you will wonder what changed. What changed was the energy she once had for a guy who seemed to be going somewhere. That energy needs fuel. And when a man stops growing, that fuel runs dry. But there is another mistake that makes this even worse. 2. He made her comfort his entire mission. A lot of guys think that if they just make her happy enough, she will never leave. So he puts her first, always. He cancels his plans, without being asked. He adjusts every opinion, the moment she disagrees. He apologizes, even when he is not wrong. He calls this being a good partner. But what she actually experiences is something different. She experiences a man with no edges, no resistance, no real self. And here is the thing about human nature that most people never say out loud. We do not deeply value what requires nothing from us. A guy who bends at every moment does not feel like a partner. He feels like a mirror, just reflecting back whatever she brings. That is not attractive. That is exhausting. A girl wants to feel like she earned your time and respect, not that it is simply handed to her by default. She wants to know you have a life, standards, and a self that existed before her, and will exist after her if it came to that. When a guy loses that, she starts losing interest. Slowly, quietly, without drama. And when a man keeps giving more hoping it will pull her back closer, it almost always does the opposite. Because what killed the attraction was not the lack of effort. It was the lack of self. And that missing self creates the next problem. 3. He handed her his emotional stability. This one is subtle, but it is one of the most damaging things a guy can do in a relationship. At some point, without realizing it, his emotional state became completely tied to hers. If she was warm, he felt great. If she seemed distant, his whole day collapsed. If she replied fast, he relaxed. If she went quiet, his mind started racing. His inner world was no longer his own. It belonged to her reactions, and she felt that weight. Not because she does not care, but because no one, no matter how much they love you, should be fully responsible for another person's emotional survival. That is too much. It kills the lightness. It kills the ease. It turns something that should feel good into something that feels heavy. A girl wants to enjoy being around you, not feel guilty for having a quiet day. When a guy loses his emotional independence, she stops feeling free. She starts feeling watched, monitored, responsible, and slowly, what was once a connection starts feeling like a weight she has to carry. That is where the warmth begins to fade. But even at this point, a man could catch it. If only he was paying attention to what was right in front of him. 4. He ignored what her energy was clearly saying. She was not hiding it. Not really. The signs were there. The replies got shorter. The laughter felt less genuine. The eye contact shifted. The little things she used to do, she stopped doing them. And he noticed. But instead of addressing it, he explained it away. She is probably tired. Work has been stressful for her. I am reading too much into it. And sometimes, that is true. But when a pattern becomes consistent, it is no longer stress. It is a signal. Girls do not usually disappear emotionally all at once. They pull back in small, gradual steps, each one giving the guy a window to step up, to connect, to ask the real question. But a guy who keeps explaining away what he is seeing cannot use those windows. He just watches them close one by one. And by the time he finally accepts that something is wrong, she has already been gone emotionally for weeks. The breakup was just the formal announcement. Seeing clearly is not about being paranoid. It is about being present enough to notice when the temperature of a relationship changes, and being secure enough to face it instead of avoid it. A man who cannot face uncomfortable truths cannot protect what he has. And that blindness connects directly to the next point. 5. He became someone she could fully predict, in the worst way. Predictability in values and character. That is a good thing. She should know who you are. But predictability in reactions, emotions, and behavior, that is where attraction goes to die. She already knows he will panic when things feel uncertain. She already knows he will over-explain when she seems upset. She already knows he will fold under the slightest tension. She already knows he will chase the moment she pulls back. And when a girl can fully predict your every move, especially your weakest moves, she stops feeling anything electric about being around you. Attraction lives in a small amount of unknown. Not manipulation. Not games. Just the quiet confidence of a man who does not react to everything. A man who can sit with discomfort without collapsing. Who can handle silence without filling it with panic. Who does not need to immediately fix every emotional moment. That steadiness is rare, and it is deeply attractive. Most guys were never taught this, so they mistake emotional flooding for emotional honesty. They think reacting strongly means they care deeply, but a girl does not experience that as depth. She experiences it as instability. And instability makes a girl feel unsafe, even if she cannot explain exactly why. Once that feeling sets in, the relationship starts moving in one direction. 6. He talked about the man he was becoming, but never actually became him. She listened. At first, she genuinely believed him. He talked about what he was building, the direction he was heading, the version of himself that was just around the corner, and she wanted to believe it, because she liked him, because she wanted to be proud of who she was standing next to. But weeks turned to months, and the life he described, it never showed up. The habits were not there. The follow-through was not there. The growth was not there. Just the same conversations, repackaged with slightly different words. And here is the painful truth about that. Every time a man overpromises and underdelivers, he borrows trust he has not earned. And at some point, that credit runs out. She does not need a guy who has everything figured out. No one does at every stage of life. But she needs to see that he is actually moving. The effort is real. That the man he claims to be is showing up in how he actually lives, not just in how he talks. Words without proof are just noise. And after enough noise, she stops listening. Not to punish him, but because continuing to listen started to feel like lying to herself. And that is what makes the final reason so difficult to hear. 7. He held on to something that was never fully real. This is the one that takes the most honesty to face. Sometimes the loss was not sudden, and it was not caused by one of the 6 things already mentioned. Sometimes the real issue was there from day one. She was never fully invested. Not really. The warmth was inconsistent right from the beginning. The effort came in waves, and only when convenient. The connection felt real on his side. But on hers, it was always a little hollow. He felt it, but he worked around it. He convinced himself that with enough patience, enough presence, enough love, she would eventually arrive fully. That is not how it works. You cannot weight someone into genuine feeling. You cannot earn your way into someone's real desire. Either it is there, or it is not. And the sooner a man learns to tell the difference between a girl who is genuinely choosing him and a girl who is simply allowing him, the less of himself he will waste. This is not about being cold. It is about being clear. A man who holds on to something that was never solid will always feel confused about why it eventually broke. Because the real loss happened long before the ending. The real loss was in every moment he chose to believe a story that the evidence was quietly disagreeing with. So when a guy loses a girl without knowing, this is the pattern underneath it. He stopped giving her someone to admire. He made her happiness his only purpose. He handed her his emotional stability. He refused to read the signs she was already sending. He became predictable in all the wrong ways. He kept selling a version of himself his life could not back up. And sometimes, he held on to something that was never truly his to begin with. None of these happen loudly. That is exactly the point. They happen in habits, in patterns, in the slow, quiet erosion of self-respect and presence. And if you see yourself in even 2 or 3 of these, do not use that as a reason to feel bad. Use it as a reason to start paying attention. Because awareness is where it all changes. A man who can see clearly can actually fix something. A man who refuses to see just keeps repeating. Which one are you choosing to be? If this video gave you something real, hit subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And the next video coming up is going to go deeper into what actually makes a woman stay long term. You do not want to miss that one.